You're listening to the Viewfinders podcast from FrameRate. I'm here with Sam McQueen. I'm Von Wars. Today we're talking about found money for content providers and in the content space. I'll kick it off with the rise of advertising on demand and fast channels and content everywhere. Sam, tell me about the trends in that and how it's affecting found revenue for content providers.
Absolutely, yeah. So the rise in popularity of AVOD really kicked off this trend that we've seen across the whole industry where quote-unquote old content becomes new again, where there were old legacy shows, Baywatch, for example, a classic, iconic show. Once AVOD came out, it allowed them to consume that content, and what they were trading is not necessarily money in that case, but they were just trading viewership of advertisement. It created this trend where all of this legacy content all of a sudden began to be consumed en masse. And that spurred a lot of content providers to say, okay, what do we have in our libraries that is appealing to audiences and that we can release to them again in the appropriate model so that they can consume it and enjoy that content again.
And I think that the market in general has been saturated, right? And there's a need to find untapped, undiscovered, and underserved markets for content providers. The market has obviously expanded with advertising, video on demand, fast channels, and opportunities like that. The question for you, Sam, is how do these new underserved markets actually create found revenue? Why wouldn't they find the money on their own, or why would the opportunity otherwise not exist?
Well, several reasons. One is just as AVOD was itself it was discovered to be an underserved or found market. Many of these underserved markets are the same things, whether it's corrections, retirement homes and aged care, cruise ships, etc. The same logic can be applied there, where these are markets that don't have access to a lot of content, and if it is provided to them in a consumption model that makes sense to them and that works with them from a monetary standpoint, we can expect to see the many similar trends happening with AVOD. It's not always about the content itself. It's oftentimes just as important of how it's consumed and what the ultimate cost is to the end viewer.
There's also a really interesting trend right now with the AI modeling. AI companies obviously have to train their computers and their models to learn things in order to create new footage. For example, someone's cutting vegetables. Well, that footage of cutting vegetables teaches the AI what cutting vegetables even is and what it looks like and how the physics of it work. We have to train those AI models with footage, and then the AI models eventually will start creating video that's very realistic based on what it learns over time. The new market, in an interesting way, about licensing or obtaining content just for the computers to learn from. And that would be footage that typically has almost no value otherwise. Security camera footage, which just sits on tapes and has no commercial value. Car crash videos that may have no commercial value. Raw footage from videos where the video is made and the video has already been distributed. The value of the video has been extracted. But this raw footage that traditionally has been seen as basically extra non-valuable content is now becoming valuable content to train AI computers what all this stuff is. That's an interesting market of how FrameRate has gone in and found new opportunities for revenue that were otherwise unseen or invisible to the general audience for the filmmakers and the production companies and studios. Why would someone object to any of this, Sam? Why would someone say, well, I don't want to do that? I can't come up with reasons, but I'm sure there are some.
That's the question that we ask those content providers is we say, why not? Let's put up our content and see what happens. And now everyone is seeing the fruits of those labors. So the way we see it exactly is, look, if you have the ability to take your content that is just simply sitting on a drive or in cloud storage somewhere and drop it into a different market and potentially have the ability to cover a certain percentage or even all of, say, your cloud storage bill that holds that content for the year, why wouldn't you do it? We don't really see the reason not to.
Yeah, excellent point. Well, hopefully if you've been listening and you're a content provider and you can maybe see things a little bit differently on how there might be opportunities you're still not hitting in these niche markets, underserved markets, even the AI education market, hopefully you learned something. This has been the Viewfinders podcast from FrameRate. Thanks for listening.